Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News program coming to you live from the capital Algiers. I'm your host Karim Zachary and these are tonight's top stories. Dozens killed in fresh Gaza strikes as the UN warns of collapsing food supplies and the Palestinian resistance declares famine has already taken hold. Coming up next, growing outrage in Morocco over armed shipments to the Zionist entity. Protesters accuse the government of silence and complicity in Gaza's genocide. Also ahead, India and Pakistan exchange fire along their border, and Islamabad warns of nuclear consequences, promising a firm response to any escalation. And Russia claims full control of Kursk, with Putin mocking Ukraine's offensive. Kiev denies retreating, insisting its advance continues. Stay with us, full reports are straight ahead. Welcome back to the program. Breaking tonight, at least 29 Palestinians have been killed in Zionist airstrikes across Gaza Strip, with dozens more wounded in the latest wave of attacks. Rescue teams in Gaza City recovered 10 bodies from a destroyed home in Sabra, while 3 others died in Shanghai refugee camp. Northern and central Gaza saw 10 additional fatalities, including displaced civilians in Deir el-Bala. Further south in Khan Yunis, 5 more perished when strikes hit tents and residential areas. Emergency crews continue searching rubble as bombardment persists. The death toll, meanwhile, is expected to rise. For its part, Gaza's health ministry reports 56 Palestinians killed and 108 wounded in the past 24 hours in the latest casualties in the occupation's renewed military campaign. Since March 18th alone, the death toll has reached 2,111, with 5,483 wounded. This brings the total fatalities since the war began to 51,495, with injuries exceeding 117,000. Rescue teams continue working around the clock as attacks persist across the besieged territory. Meanwhile, the World Food Programme has issued a pressing warning. Its final food stocks have now been distributed across Gaza, with supplies expected to run out completely within just days. In a dire statement, the UN agency said the humanitarian situation has reached a breaking point, forcing them to consider suspending all food aid operations. This comes as Gaza faces what aid workers are describing as one of the worst hunger crises in modern history, with over 500,000 people now facing catastrophic food insecurity.
The World Food Programme food supplies for our core food assistance program within Gaza are fully depleted. Since the 2nd of March, no humanitarian or commercial goods have entered, and our capacity to respond continues to decline. The 25 bakeries we used to support across Gaza Strip, serving 800,000 people, are no longer operational, and food parcels so core to our program, intended to reach half of the population in Gaza, have been fully distributed. If the context remains unchanged, WFP's critical lifeline assistance may be forced to end. To meet the basic needs of population in Gaza, it is critical that we are able to resume food deliveries into Gaza immediately.
For its part, Hamas confirmed that Gaza has entered a phase of actual famine due to the occupation's comprehensive blockade. In a statement, Hamas warned of catastrophic consequences from Zionist actions, including the blockade of essential supplies like food, water, medicine, and fuel. It highlighted the threat to the lives of over 2.25 million people, enduring bombs, massacres, and an ongoing war of extermination.
The announcement by the World Food Programme that it has exhausted all its food supplies in the Gaza Strip reflects the dangerous level of the humanitarian catastrophe caused by the fascist occupation. It confirms that the people of Gaza have now entered a stage of actual famine. Hamas warns of the catastrophic consequences of the total blockade imposed by the terrorist occupation government on the Gaza Strip and its prevention of the entry of essential necessities such as food, water, medicine and fuel, threatening the lives of more than 2.25 million people living under relentless bombardment, massacres and a war of extermination.
Hamas also condemned the occupation's actions as severe violations of international law and humanitarian norms. In a statement, Hamas called on the international community to urgently intervene to stop the mass starvation and lift the nearly 2-month-long siege on Gaza. Let's take a listen.
The use of starvation as a weapon by the government of war criminal Netanyahu, along with the deliberate targeting of water station and food distribution centers, represent one of the most heinous violations of international law and humanitarian norms. It necessitates a clear stance of condemnation from the international community and decisive action to hold the perpetrators of these crimes against humanity accountable. We call on the international community with all its institutions and bodies to urgently act to halt the crime of collective starvation and the total blockade that has been imposed on Gaza for nearly 2 months and immediately ensure the delivery of food and medical aid.
And in a related development, the Trump administration has taken the unprecedented step of stripping UNRWA, the UN's Palestinian Relief Agency, of its diplomatic immunity in the United States. A legal filing Thursday in New York paves the way for potential lawsuits against the agency over allegations some staff were connected to last October's Hamas attacks. This move effectively removes UNRWA's protected status as a UN body, opening it to American legal action. The decision comes amid already strained relations between Washington and the UN's main humanitarian operation in Gaza, where UNRWA provides critical aid to millions. The Gaza Strip, already devastated by bombings, has now been deprived of all aid for the 8th consecutive week. The World Food Programme confirmed its food stocks are exhausted, cutting off a vital source of nutrition for hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Yassina Rikti reports now.
A deepening humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding in Gaza. More than 7 weeks of a sealed blockade have pushed over 2 million people to the brink of famine. The United Nations World Food Programme has now confirmed that its food stocks in Gaza are completely depleted.
The World Food Programme food supplies for our core food assistance program within Gaza are fully depleted. Since the 2nd of March, no humanitarian or commercial goods have entered, and our capacity to respond continues to decline.
With bakeries shuttered and supermarkets emptied, survival now hangs by a thread, almost entirely dependent on 37 community kitchens supported by the WFP, churning out up to 500,000 meals a day. But even these vital lifelines are expected to run dry within days.
The food security situation in Gaza is unfortunately deteriorating. And the reason it's deteriorating is that we have no food coming in since March. This means no humanitarian, no cargo. This means that also the population is resorting to negative coping mechanisms, which means that parents are having to go without food, which means that in some households people are only having 1 meal a day. The current situation is continuing to exacerbate. And this means that right now where we stand as humanitarian community is that it's a little bit too late. Unless we are able to get the assistance that the population needs in order to be able to sustain a dignified and adequate nutritional level and food level in the Strip.
The UN estimates that 80% of Gaza's population now relies on these hot meals just to make it through the day. Human rights groups have slammed the ongoing blockade as a deliberate starvation tactic, potentially a war crime under international law.
Our remaining stocks were directed to hot meal kitchens, which are continuing to serve people in need. But these too are expected to run out by the end of the month. Sadly, this covers only 25% of the overall people food needs. The closure has been ongoing for more than 50 days. If the context remains unchanged, WFP's critical lifeline assistance may be forced to end.
Meanwhile, Hamas has accused the Zionist entity of weaponizing hunger, calling the blockade a blatant violation of humanitarian principles. As food supplies vanish and hope runs dry, global calls grow louder, demanding immediate humanitarian access before Gaza plunges into an irreversible tragedy.
Shifting focus to Morocco, where activist groups are ramping up calls to boycott Zionist interests and local businesses tied to the occupation. At a solidarity rally in Rabat, Soumaya Bouabdallah of the BDS movement urged Moroccans to unite against what she called the creeping normalization with Israel. The demonstration reflects growing public opposition to Morocco's diplomatic ties with the Zionist entity, despite the government's 2020 normalization deal. Protesters vowed to intensify pressure campaigns against companies engaged with Zionist partners.
The next steps involve intensifying the ongoing struggles, unifying and solidifying them together in order to create and build a real strength. Today we are not merely speaking from a moral standpoint, as if capitalist companies which profit from the capitalist system are necessarily doing something immoral. Therefore, we're not necessarily appealing solely to morality. Moroccan companies involved in profiting from the Zionist project must be held accountable and made to pay the price. The officials and spokespersons for La Belle Vie have come out, albeit very timidly, admitting that the boycott has indeed affected them, but they claim it has not yet reached all cities or all their stores.
Similarly, Moroccan activists are also demanding answers after ships carrying arms to the Zionist entity have been allowed to dock at the country's ports. During protests in Rabat, Rashid Falouli of the Action Group for Palestine accused authorities of a dangerous silence over maritime activity in Tangier and Casablanca. Demonstrators condemned what they call Morocco's tacit complicity in arming the occupation, a sharp rebuke of the government's 2020 normalization deal.
We renew our condemnation and denunciation and express our deep outrage at the continued absence of any official clarification regarding what is happening at the port of Tangier and the port of Casablanca. We issued a statement concerning the company of Maersk. Yet where is the state? What all its institutions to come forward and clearly say, no, we are not receiving these ships. Thus all our condemnation is detected at this deafening silence. Yesterday, the Moroccan government held a council meeting, and the entire international press is condemning this policy that keeps them in a state of silence and inaction. Yet there has been no statement, no clarification, nothing at all. What great injustice this government is committing. This is their policy.
Al-Falouli emphasized as well that the ongoing normalization between the Makhzen regime and the Zionist entity makes Morocco a partner in the genocide of the Palestinian people.
The failure to serve ties, the continuation of normalization, and the support being provided to the Zionist entity, despite the condemnation by the International Court of Justice, the International Criminal Court, and in violation of international laws that Morocco has signed, amounts of complicity in this crime. Therefore, we disavow any official, regardless of their position or rank, who authorizes or permits these criminals to discredit our country and our land. As we always say, Morocco is the land of the free, and the Zionists must get out.
Elsewhere in Africa, Sudan's conflict escalates. The Rapid Support Forces launched heavy attacks Friday, bombing 2 army bases in Omdurman, including a key airbase and military college. They also shelled the army's general command in Khartoum. In response, Sudan's Transitional Council leader, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, vowed to crush the RSF, pledging the army will fight until the militia is completely eradicated.
شهداء السودان تحية لشهداء نحن مصممين وماضين في هذه المعركة.
We are confident in victory, as it serves our cause. God will make the path to victory easier for us to defeat these enemies and those who support them, whether politically or through countries. The people may stumble or be delayed, but in the end, they will triumph because they are in their right. Things are moving forward exactly as planned. Soon you will no longer hear about drones hitting service and civilian facilities.
Turning now to Central Africa, where prospects for peace are emerging between Kinshasa and Kigali, as Rwandan and Congolese foreign ministries signed a commitment on Friday under U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's supervision. Let's get the insights with Sofiane Kenturi now.
Little hope is finally emerging in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as Congolese and Rwandan foreign ministers meet in Washington have signed a declaration of principles aimed at restoring peace in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The declaration signals a strong commitment by both countries to draft a preliminary peace agreement by May 2nd and refrain from providing military support to any armed groups.
Our common aim is to conclude a comprehensive peace agreement as soon as possible. But there are no shortcuts or quick fixes, and we have to do the hard work to get it done right, once and for all. Rwanda is committed, and we are ready to continue working together with all the partners involved to ensure the success of this initiative.
Earlier this year, tensions between the two neighbors flared when the DRC recalled its ambassador from Kigali and ordered the closure of Rwanda's diplomatic missions. But with this signing, both sides reaffirmed their respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, commit to resolving disputes peacefully, promoting the safe return of displaced persons, and boosting regional economic integration.
Today marks not an end but a beginning, a necessary step towards peace taken with resolve and purpose. This moment carries particular weight for the Democratic Republic of the Congo. In Goma, in Bukavu, and beyond, the reality of displacement, insecurity and hardship continues. For us, the urgency of this initiative is not theoretical, it is human.
Despite these diplomatic strides, the reality on the ground remains dire. According to the United Nations, around 1 million people, including 400,000 children, have been displaced since the start of the year, with fighting intensifying amid the M23 rebellion in North and South Kivu. As efforts for peace slowly take shape, the people of Eastern DRC continue to grapple with insecurity, hardship, and the desperate hope that this time diplomacy can finally succeed.
In other topical news, tensions flare again along the India-Pakistan border. The Indian Army announced a renewed exchange of fire with Pakistani forces along the line of control between the two countries overnight. Small arms fire was reported from several Pakistani army positions in Kashmir, but the Indian Army confirmed no casualties among its personnel during the incident. On a related note, Pakistani Defense Minister Khawaja Mohammad Asif warned of a potential nuclear confrontation with India if the crisis following the deadly Kashmir attack is not contained. In a press statement, Asif emphasized Pakistan's readiness to respond to any Indian airstrikes and urged India to engage in dialogue to resolve the disputes, including the Kashmir issue, peacefully. Similarly, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif warned India of a measured and decisive response if the water treaty between the two countries is violated. Speaking at a military ceremony, Sharif reiterated Pakistan's readiness to defend its sovereignty and respond firmly to any actions threatening its territorial integrity.
Our eastern neighbor continues a pattern of exploitation, leveling baseless allegations and false accusations without credible investigation or verifiable evidence. The recent tragedy in Pahalgam is yet another example of this perpetual blame game, which must come to a grinding halt. And now, continuing with its role as a responsible country, Pakistan is open to participate in any neutral, transparent, and credible investigation.
In other topical developments, Russia claims full control of Kursk Oblast has been restored after Ukrainian forces occupied parts of the region since August. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov announced that the defense chief personally reported the operation's completion to President Putin. The statement comes as Moscow seeks to portray momentum in the conflict, though Ukraine has not yet confirmed the withdrawal.
Today, the last settlement in the Kursk region, the village of Gorno, has been liberated from Ukrainian units. Thus, the defeat of the armed formations of the Ukrainian armed forces that invaded the Kursk region has been completed. The plans of the Kiev regime to create a so-called strategic bridgehead and disrupt our offensive in the Donbass have failed.
For his part, Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed the failure of the Ukrainian attack on Kursk following a report from the Russian Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov on the army's full control of the region. Putin stated that regaining control of the border area would pave the way for further successes for the Russian military.
I congratulate all personnel of all military units that took part in the defeat of neo-Nazi formations that invaded Russian territory in the Kursk region. The Kiev regime's adventure has completely failed, and the huge losses suffered by the enemy, including among the most combat-ready, trained and equipped, including with Western models of equipment, forces of the Ukrainian armed forces, and these are assault units, special forces, will certainly be reflected along the entire line of combat contact.
Meanwhile, Ukraine is pushing back sharply against Russia's claims of victory in Kursk. In a telegram statement, Kiev's general staff flatly denied withdrawing forces, calling Moscow's declaration of full control false information. Ukrainian officials insist their operations continue in parts of the border region, directly contradicting Vladimir Putin's triumphant announcement hours earlier. In another story, marathon nuclear talks between Iran and the U.S. have wrapped up in Oman, with no breakthrough announced. After 9 hours of indirect negotiations, both delegations are returning home for consultations, Iranian state TV reported. The third round of high-level discussions focused on Tehran's atomic program, though neither side disclosed specifics. The muted outcome suggests lingering gaps as Washington pushes to restrain Iran's nuclear advances.
I'm pleased with the process and pace of the negotiations. I believe the process has been satisfactory. This time around, the negotiations were considerably more serious. Eventually, our discussions delved into more detailed and technical areas. The presence of experts was incredibly beneficial. We exchanged written opinions several times. You know, the negotiations are indirect. Technical discussions need slightly more specific attention. Therefore, views were mostly traded in written format.
Still in Iran, a Saturday explosion of Rajai port in Bandar Abbas, southern Iran, killed 8 people and injured 750, according to the Iranian Interior Minister Iskandar Momeni. The fire, which spread between containers, has not yet been extinguished, though precautionary measures are in place. Momeni expressed hope the blaze would be contained within hours. And finally, the Shanghai Auto Show highlighted China's latest advancements in automotive technology, with local companies showcasing cars aimed at competing globally and overcoming tariff war barriers. Here's Zahra Farjani with the details.
China's influence now stretches beyond electronics into the automotive world, not just through pricing, but through technology, design, and performance. Under the theme Embrace Innovation, Win the Future, Auto Shanghai 2025 kicks off its 21st edition, reshaping the future of mobility. Celebrating its 40th anniversary, the exhibition spans over 360,000 square meters, hosting more than 1,000 companies from 26 countries. Innovations range from electric and hybrid vehicles to AI and augmented reality integrations.
The technology inside the cars has become truly impressive. As soon as you say hello, the car starts talking to you and follows your commands. Some vehicles are even equipped with solar panels to charge the battery, along with other technologies that leave visitors amazed.
Smart driving systems and interactive experiences are transforming how people connect with cars. Chinese startups are making a strong entry, offering vehicles tailored instantly to customer preferences.
What's being showcased here is massive and extraordinary. It's no longer just about small upgrades or minor improvements. They've added gold and other unusual features to the cars. This is no longer something ordinary.
This year's edition stands out not only for its scale and innovation, but also for its timing as the industry faces rising geopolitical tensions and new US tariffs shaking the global automotive market. Auto Shanghai 2025 kicks off to offer the world a glimpse into the future of mobility, unprecedented innovations, revolutionary technologies, and bold visions shaping the automotive industry for decades to come.
We reached the end of our program. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, have a good one.